What I'm doing now is trying to work more along the edges, trying to get like an even thickness of heart and sapwood. If I get the edges right, I can then sort of flatten the belly. But there's areas like this where I put L for leave, where it's obviously flexing because the cambium in here just popped out. So I see that as a potential weak point also with these pins. But I'm going to leave it swelling a little bit wider there. I know I've still got plenty of tip width. Twister's probably down to about that width. So I'm taking down the sapwood quite a bit on this edge where it was very thick. Compare it with that edge. I'm trying to get the whole thing about the same width at either edge, and I obviously need to work here. This knot will get totally removed. The danger is it's easy to over focus on one particular point and forget the rest of it. So I've done a bit here, but now I'm just going to leave that. I need to slim this tip, take off obvious thick points. I think here we're pretty good, and again use my fingers to feel, you know, is it like we're a bit thick in the middle here, but we've got this knot, so probably take some off the belly in this area, and at places where it was starting to tear, like this knot, which is presumably that one. It was starting to tear, so I've used the rasp. But it's a matter of trying to do the whole lot evenly. You know, work on both limbs, work along a whole limb, try and just gradually get it all similar. Like I feel a bit thin there, and I'm a bit fat here, so yeah, I'll need to work on this area. A bit of a bulge here. But yeah, there's a thin bit there, so you know, you've got to keep looking from either side. That shows it really. We're quite thin there where that dip is, so I've removed quite a bit of sapwood here to counteract that. And you can see most of the growth lines in the sapwood will be running along the limb anyway, so it's not a problem. But I'll do some more on this limb, just, you know, the old 15 minutes here and there, tidy it up, then go and have a look at the other limb, then put it back on the tiller. Slow and steady wins the day. But bear in mind, the tips probably only came back about 4 inches last time, so I've got an awful lot to take off. So that's the dilemma. Do I try and rip off big amounts of wood and risk it tearing, or do I gently sort of try and coax it, or is it too early to be coaxing? Well, that's where the skill and experience comes in. I mean, now it doesn't seem to be coming out. Pick it out from this end. That's excavated that hole a bit more. Quite a nice little feature really. So we'll allow the limb to swell a bit. Probably just sort of bring it in. Bring the limb like that. And it will blend into the grip. Like I said, it's the position of the knot does influence the grip. Looking down the bow, it looks to be slightly bent that way, i.e. straighter on this edge than that, which begs the question, why? Now, has the string line moved? Has the bow shifted? Where I took some wood out at the grip, did that make it spring across slightly? Well, it doesn't matter, because I can cut the grip out to shape the string line, or move the string line where I want. So I'll probably move it slightly across this end, and slightly across to the left at the far end, and shape the grip appropriately, bearing in mind at this end it can almost taper to nothing. That's the tip on twister, and you can see it's smaller than my fingertip, so you'll see we've got plenty of width. So I'll just take note that I want to remove wood off the right edge, just gluing on some temporary overlays of ash, just so I can file a knot groove into the back rather than going into the sides, because if you go into the sides you're losing some width. This way I can move the tip across there or there to suit the string line. While I was messing around, I looked at the piece I sawed off, and there was a knot there similar to the one in the middle of the bow here. So I thought, well, I'll bandsaw through that so you can see what it was actually like internally. Well, there you go. That's what that knot looks like inside. In fact, I did a slice off it. That may or may not be of interest, but I like to do these things. And there's a drying check off the other end. So it sort of runs out to nothing. That's an interesting view. That's another bit of a split. You can see it runs around a growth ring and then out radially. Now I've slimmed the tips considerably to give me a better string line, shaped the grip a tiny bit more. It's still rather wide. I haven't filed in the knot grooves yet. These little bits of ash that I'd line around, they're glued on with high viscosity super glue. They'll be replaced with a nice bit of buffalo horn at the end. I've had a closer look round some of these knots, shaped the bow a bit more, and I could probably take that completely out. You know, make the bow that wide there. But I've left it bulged out for now. I can always reduce the width later. I'll pick that out and see what it looks like. I've run the edges on the belt sander just to clean them up, which allows me to see how much heartwood and how much sapwood I've got there. So I can, you know, clean the edges up evenly all along, clean the edges up and then work towards the middle. I'll pop her back on the tiller. It's probably, you know, vastly too heavy still, but it's just a matter of tidying it up by degrees. Right, back on the tiller again, and it'll be a bit more meaningful this time because I've taken substantial amounts off. I've already pulled it and I had a lovely crack and pop, and the cambium's lifting there, which I'll show you as a close-up. Let's just see how it's flexing. You can see that's much more like a bow now. You might still hear some cracking and popping. Right. Don't know if you can see that cambium lifting on the left. Maybe the left's a whisker stiff, but that's what you'd expect. This bit where it looks really wide is just, it's like a localised twist in the wood, so it looks particularly wide. If we look where this cambium's popping off, you can see it just comes off like a sheet. And the beauty of this is, I call it nature's strain gauge. It shows you that there's some flex in that area, so the tips of the bow are starting to work a bit. Another bit there where it's popped, and ideally if it cracked every few inches along the length of the bow, you'd know the bow was evenly stressed, and it gives you a pristine surface underneath. So it's basically telling me outer limbs flexing, I need to work a bit more here. But what I'll do is, more on here, let's thread the string through here one more time to shorten it a bit. That won't brace it, but it'll put it under a little bit more stress. Slap it back on the tiller and see what we get. There, you'll see the string's not hanging down so far now. A little bit more creaking and popping, and that's about 17.5 inches at £50, which will correlate to, that equates to about £77 draw weight, so I've got quite a bit to take off.